what is your reaction to Jon Gruden getting fired, and what's your opinion on this?
I mean, for me, it's overdue. I'm gonna keep it solid. Let's just put all the other extra shit to the side. You feel me? What has Jon Gruden been as a coach? Let's just be realistic. Where has he been as a coach overall through his totality? His first stint with the Raiders, his stint with the Bucks, and then his second stint with the Raiders. What has he been? Because I mean, he made the Raiders a good team. Rich Gannon was the MVP. You had two All-American receivers, Jerry Rice and Tim Brown. You arguably, rightfully so, should have been in the Super Bowl had it not been for the tough rule. I'll give you that. Other than that one instance, what have you done? Because you went to Tampa Bay and won with Tony Dungy's team. That wasn't the team you put together.
Yeah, that's a fact.
That was the defense Tony Dungy put together. It was on the verge of winning the Super Bowl with before he was let go. And you played the team you coached the year before. So what did you really accomplish with that? With the all-time great defense that Tony Dungy put together. And then after that team, what did you do? You got Chris Sims for a couple of years, didn't make the playoffs, losing records, went to ESPN, started talking to the draft class of quarterbacks. People started gassing you up. You got $100 million for the Raiders, came back and was the same weak-ass coach you was prior to winning a Super Bowl with the Bucks. And that one-ass year with the Raiders, your first game. So what have you been to deserve $100 million to get the benefit of the doubt? This is a world that doesn't accept that shit anymore, bro. This is not the Jim Crow era. It's not civil rights. It's not 70s, 80s, where you could get away, even the 90s, where you could get away with talking about sexism, racism, talking about people that are gay. You can't talk about none of that shit no more. That's not accepted. We just seen it with Dave Chappelle. They try to get him off of Netflix for shit he said that he wasn't even wrong about. It's just the fact that he said it. You feel me? You just certain shit the world not accepting no more in 2021 that they accepted even in 2014, 15, 13.
And they're not accepting it as, as jokes, as comedy anymore. It's not even it's not obviously there's a lot of things that happen in, in real life and stuff like that are in day-to-day life that are maybe funny to certain people and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, if it's coming across as disrespectful, if it's coming across as not as sensitive, I would say aware of the sensitivity, when it comes to the certain topics, definitely I don't understand why it was putting them in an email. We all know, why would you put that in an email, in a text, in a, granted, doesn't make it right. I don't condone it either way. It's just one of those things where it's like, why are you putting those things in an email, number one? And you still got to go by the rule of thumb of your job, technically the NFL, the shield, if you're a head coach for the NFL, at your employer, at your job, at your office, why are you sending emails that have to do with any of those other topics like that?
Well, it's funny to me.
Any of your other coworkers.
But yeah, like Sean brings up the prospect of it. Like, I think the subject matter can be divided up. It's a situation where, okay, I think anyone with a clear conscience could understand that what he said could obviously offend a lot of people. I think that goes without saying. I do think, though, the one thing Sean brings up is something that we still struggle with today in society, where usually back in the day, like Sean and Kane brought this up with the 90s and past generations. Back in the day, there was only certain situations you could find yourself in where you could get caught up. Now it's a situation where how technology and the way we live our lives based off the principle that technology drives all this. You can
everything's documented.
Everything's documented. You can get everything back. These emails were not from last month or last week, 11 years apart.
This is a decade ago.
Yeah, so you can still find all that stuff even back then. And I think for me, that's the craziest part, is that you really
ain't gonna find nothing on me.
No,
they ain't gonna find nothing on me.
That's fine.
I don't got no crazy emails. I don't got no
fine.
We can Google Sean P and find something.
It's just the way the world has had a shift. It's the world. If it makes sense, it's kind of an oxymoron. It's the world has changed, but yet it's still the same. There's a lot of shit that's still very prevalent from even the 60s to this very day. But there are also
that wasn't that long ago.
Right. And there's also so many things that are different. This emails was a decade ago. I just brought up Dave Chappelle. They're trying to get him off of Netflix for a stand-up special that just came out. Kevin Hart couldn't host the Oscars or whatever it was because the tweets he made over a decade ago. They're pulling up shit from your past. You feel me? There's a fucking stand-up of Bernie Mac talking about his sister's children. He's calling one of them gay and a faggot. This was 2000. This is 1999, 2000. People are criticizing a man that's not even on earth anymore for shit he said in an era in which it was acceptable to say it. Even though it wasn't acceptable, it was acceptable in society to talk like that at that time. You feel me? Without getting criticized.
Well, I want to bring up some stuff here. Hold on. Because I want to bring up some tweets from some people here that we know. And I want to bring this one up we'll start off with my boy Joe.
Okay.
I wish I could find his Twitter, man. You know his Twitter? I'm looking for his Twitter right now. I can't
Joe.
find it.
Oh, yeah, I think it's Joe. So it's and then JEAUX.
Yeah, okay. I got him right here. And he actually made a good point here. So I'm gonna read Joey's tweet right here, man, because I think this is some real stuff. Gruden said that shit about black people, and they didn't ask him to resign. But once he said something about the LGBTQ community, it was an automatic resignation. It's weird if we're gonna be outraged. Let's show equal outrage for disrespect. What do you think of that?
Facts. I mean, that's big because when it comes down to it, is what we've, especially our culture, what we've been asking for forever, for years, for centuries. I mean, we've always wanted the same. If certain things are not going to be condoned, in different in society with throughout society and with people and jobs and workplaces or out of workplaces, we have to keep the same energy when it's about black people or when it's about people of color or when it's about women, children. We have to keep the same energy with that. If we wouldn't condone it when it comes to the LGBTQ community, then we can't condone that if there's certain things said about the black community, about communities of color, about women, and that's where, to me, it's faltered. Where in certain ways, there are some people in some cultures that have evolved, and there is diversity in our society. Yeah. We do, I do know that, but at the same time, it's always kind of gets taken back to by generation to generation to generation. That's how a lot of people are brought up to think a certain way. So when they hear their great grandma or great grandpa say it, or grandma or grandpa, or mom or dad say it, and when you take it back to that point, and then by the time that that person is 15, 16, 20, 21, 25, 28, I mean, they're still thinking, a lot of them are still thinking the same way that they were when they got brought up. So to me, like how I've always kind of put it is like, it has to be a blanket, more of a rule or more of a thought pattern and thought process on that, because like I said, it can't not be condoned in certain communities, and then other communities it's kind of just brushed off. Like to your main point, the resignation and the pressure about that didn't really get that pressure until emails about LGBTQ and misogyny and things like that. So
well, I mean, my thing is like, it's funny to me how, like, I don't think there was going to be a specific situation where, once you feel disrespected as a person or as a man or as a group of people, it's just very hard to move on. Like, there's a reason that team played the way they played on Sunday. They did not look at all at the team that, they were the last couple of weeks, even in that Charger game. I just feel like as a grown man, there was no way he was going to be able to come back after that first email and, gain control of that locker room again. Because as a football team, before I play for you, I got to respect you first. And if I can't do that, how am I going to fall in line? You know what I'm saying?
That's correct.
Yeah, Joe makes a valid point, bro. Like, I get, like, it's for some reason, and people might bash me for saying this, but it's some reason, like, Black people have been fighting for rights since slavery. since literal slavery, shackled slavery. Yep. And people get there's this misconception about slavery. Slavery, and not to get all that deep into it, but just to break it down a little bit. When people talk about slavery, what do they talk about? They talk about 400 years, right? First of all, shackled slavery was 250 years in Northern America. And then the other 150 years they count, a part of that is the Jim Crow era, which lasted a long time. But if you want to get technical, we've been fighting for rights for slavery since slavery for 2,000 years. Yep. We only talk about the 400 years because that's the European slave trade. The transatlantic slave trade was 500, and the trans-Saharan slave trade was 1,100. We were enslaved for 2,000 years, in which we've been fighting for these rights. And it's somehow like, since the LGBTQ or people who are bisexual, gay, whatever the case may be, is like, for some reason, in a lot of ways, or some ways, there's like their rights or their ability to protest whatever has been elevated above that of Black people.
Oh yeah, because they're still trying to keep.
In a lot of ways, it's like their rights matter more than the rights of people of color who built this land, who built this country, who were here before. And today's quote unquote Columbus Day, who were here before Columbus discovered this land. We were everywhere.
I mean, if you go into like, if you go into like any store, right? There's LGBTQ stuff like rainbow apparel, all that stuff. Before there's Black Lives Matter.
And I want to make this clear. No disrespect to the LGBTQ community, to their movement, to their fight for their rights.
Of course,
as a man of color, as a minority in this country, I am all for it. But we can't sit here and like their rights have in some ways either been equal to or elevated above the rights of Black people. Because like Joe said, he came out talking about DeMaurice Smith, who was the head of the NFLPA for years. He's been the head of that since Gene Upshaw passed away.
Yeah.
And that y'all let it slide. We gonna brush it off, whatever. It took for these other emails to come out about the referees, about gay rights and all that kind of stuff, and a gay player getting drafted in order for him to have to resign. And what sense does that make? Because let it have been reversed. First of all, African American coaches or coaches of color ain't getting opportunities as it is anyway. Period. Yeah. But let one of the few that have an opportunity, let it have been reversed. Let them have talked about a gay person, have talked about a Caucasian person, have talked about LGBTQ. They out of there. They out of there within
eviscerate
within hours, bro. Jon Gruden has done nothing in the NFL to warrant have stayed past the first emails. He's literally done nothing to earn that right.
Well,
he has won Super Bowl, and he's done what? Been on ESPN for years. What has he done to earn the right to even have stayed past the first email? Why did it take for extra ones to come out?
And honestly, that's even a good point, and that's even a bigger issue where what ends up happening, especially in our society, if you won a title, Jon Gruden has, if you are a white male figure, he's been a head coach. He's always been a popular ESPN personality, as well as he's had different segments and shows, quarterback camps, kind of similarly to Trent Dilfer in that sense. When you have all those things on your side, and especially in white America, that always will get a pass, especially at first. Now, once white America in this scenario is pushed to the brink, well, of course, gonna make a decision on Jon Gruden and he has to resign and all this. But it got pushed to the brink, and that's why that had to happen. I mean, even look at Urban Meyer, man. That's why I like the point that came.
That's what I said about
in Urban Meyer's situation. If that's a Black coach and he's out dancing with someone that's not his wife or partner, I'm not saying Urban Meyer didn't get criticized. He obviously got dogged.
The Rays are coming down the wire. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm getting the channel changed on me. Giants, Dodgers.
I'm
watching the Giants, Dodgers too.
Yeah, this Ray game though is lit, man.
Oh, is it okay? What's the count?
We're tied. Sean, I wanna bring this up to you, Sean. I want to bring this up to you because you bring a good point up, but I want to develop this. I think Kane's gonna have some good insight on this also.
Yeah.
Damian Barling. We're gonna have Casey on tomorrow, but Damian Barling says the most important thing to remember: there are a lot more Jon Grudens, Tom Brennemans, and Grant Napiers in the sports world that haven't been exposed and live intolerant to others. Owners, GMs, media, announcers, you know them. When they show you who you are, believe them. And this goes back to, I think, Sean's point, is that I don't think that white America necessarily fell in love with the idea of exposing people in positions of power who committed or, spoke racist things until it became about profits. I think
exactly
the dollar rules everything because
of course
what you
they
notice,
don't want to out their own people. White America doesn't necessarily want to out or expose their own people. It's just in the times that we live in, they're pushed to a brink. The pressure would have been on them regardless. As soon as these emails came out, whether he was white or a person of color, he was gonna get criticized to the. I mean, even Urban Meyer's probably gonna get fired. Eventually with it. I mean, it's just
when George Floyd was killed and the backlash went beyond revolution to, okay, everyone knows this is wrong. I felt like there was a strong push where companies said, if we're going to lose money, then we better make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's and we stand on the right side of it. And a lot of times when you get situations where people do these things, I think you see the true colors. But then once it becomes, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my line of business, I'm going to lose my line of work, then it's, I'm sorry, I can't believe I did that. There's every excuse in the book.
Well, because look at what Jim Cat did the other night. What Jim Cat said on what was it, the second game of the Rays, I think of the Rays and White Sox game. He was talking about, the color commentary was like, they were basically complimenting one of the pitchers, I think, on one of the teams, and basically on the telecast, he was, saying like, man, that guy's really good. And when I seen Buck Showalter was like, when I saw him, play some years ago coming up in the minor leagues, looked really good. And then Jim Cat, which is a former baseball pitcher, also MLB analyst, and now a broadcaster, he basically said, oh, we need 40 acres full of them. So number one, okay, are you even referring to us as people at that point? No. Number two, you literally just referenced back to, why would you even reference slavery by just complimenting how good a player is? We need a 40-acre field of them. So that shows you right there, to me, where I personally, most cases, I don't necessarily think it ever leaves white people's minds, especially in the back of their minds, because it's like I said, it's how they grew up. Now, I don't necessarily think that people can't evolve when it comes to their thought pattern and when it comes to how they feel about diversity and culture and certain things that they encounter. But what I'm saying is, a lot of times, as we've seen with Jon Gruden, I mean, just because you coach black people don't mean you like black people. Genuinely. Just because you're around Sean P and tolerate, does that mean that you love my people? I don't know that. So that's where I'm always, questioning. Now, I have grown up with many of diversity of friends and people that have been around me that aren't black. And I would assume that they have genuine respect and friendship of me and have, I hope. But it's always a question. You just never know, because we've been shown again and again and again and again that no matter how diverse our land is, and at the end of the day, colored people are the majority because natives were here on the land first. So we can even cut the minority conversation out of there. We are the majority.
I wanted to get Kane's reaction on this. So Grant Napier, who used to be the Kings broadcaster, he has a podcast about the Jon Gruden situation that he released a couple of days ago. Maybe it was today. I don't know. The show notes go as this. And I think this is a situation where a lot of people try to define what a racist is and what a person that's not a racist is. Who knows? But it says, I talk about what I feel is a massive overreaction about the Wall Street article on Jon Gruden. Gruden at 58 is now all of a sudden painted a racist. How come his body of work isn't being looked at? How come no former or current player as of today has come out to say Gruden is a racist? Lord knows we have a lot of problems in this country relating to race, but was Gruden's comments about DeMaurice Smith racist? I certainly do not think so.
I mean, the problem is with a statement like that, and this goes to a bigger conversation. The problem with the statement like that is you don't think there's racist, you don't think the comments were racist, or you don't think when it comes to racism that it applies to certain people because y'all don't go through it. Let's just call it what it is. Y'all don't go through it. Y'all don't deal with it every day. Yeah, I know what I do when I walk out this house. I wear a suit and tie to work every day. When I walk out this house, no matter how well I'm dressed, no matter what kind of suit I got on, I look at myself in the mirror for 10 minutes every morning because I don't know if when I walk out, if I'm gonna make it back. That's the reality of the world that I live in. Yeah. That I literally have to do that because I don't know when I walk out this house if I'll make it back at the end of the day. Even dress the way I dress for work. Why? Because of the color that I am. But it also goes to a bigger point that he doesn't want to address that Jon Gruden may or may not be racist because this goes to a bigger part of America in general and society in general. The problem with America is they don't want to accept and take responsibility for the actions and the greatest crime in history that they committed, which was the racism. Was a racism and the colonization of Africans who then became African Americans. That is the problem right there. They don't want to talk about it. And like Keith said, and like you were saying, Sean, when it comes to money, when it comes to the monetization or inflection of money, then it becomes everybody wants to put up a fist. Everybody want to march and take a knee. We see Ray Lewis out there on 2 knees after saying nobody should be kneeling. We see little corny shit like that. That's why people like Muhammad Ali is respected for what they did. That's why people like Jim Brown are respected for what they did. Bill Russell respected for what they did. And then you take it to comments like that. How were they not racist? We can take it back to books written about Black people in the 50s and 60s. Black people on the cover of books had big lips, were eating watermelons, couldn't swim. You feel me? And then look even this further. People were doing blackface for God knows how long. We just seen a picture of, I want to say it was Sir Silverman or whoever it was in a picture wearing blackface. Still. Crazy. Like, come on, bro. What are we talking about? Y'all want to talk about?
And they know it's wrong too. I mean, they know it ain't it's not a good look, and they know the history behind it. Right. That's why a lot of times people will kind of front in his cap where they'll gloss over I didn't really know the history of it.
You can't tell the history of the world without addressing slavery. That's the problem. And you want to really get down to the bottom of it is everything. First of all, and I have a lot of white friends. I have grew up with some white people. I still hang around with a lot of white people. One, they colonized and stolen everything. So let's just call it what it is. We're gonna be real on this. We're gonna be real on our podcast. They colonized and stolen everything. Secondly, walk up to any white person you know and ask them, what is the culture of white people? And let's see if they don't have an answer. Black people have a culture. Hispanic people have a culture. Oriental people have a culture. Native Americans have a culture.
Fact.
What is the culture of white Americans or Caucasian people or people from the mountains of Caucasus or whatever they want to be referred as? What is their culture? Because they can't tell you.
Final
what
question.
They do is they colonize or they steal the culture of other people and try to make it their own, but they don't want to address where they got it from. They don't want to address how they got it and how we got to this point, which is the problem. Take responsibility for what y'all did. What happened. We can't go back and change the shit. The least you can fucking do is take responsibility for it. Say we was wrong and we fucked up because y'all know y'all did.
Final question, and this can be really brief before we get out of here because we got to shoot tomorrow. Do you see a situation where Jon Gruden will ever coach again or get another job? High school, D1, D2, D3, semi-pro?
I personally, I do not. And if we could just, if we don't want to throw the emails and shit aside, he did do enough as a coach to warrant another job. Because if this was a black coach,
that's true too.
We gonna take it there again. If this was a black coach, we see plenty of black coaches, Raheem Morris, Todd Bowles, plenty of coaches that didn't have very good records, got cast out, and they had to become coordinators and haven't gotten another job opportunity since.
True.
We can even take it to sports like the NBA. Mark Jackson should have had another head coaching job somewhere in the league. Why has he not gotten another head coaching job? All right. When it comes to coaches of color, when they don't produce at the level that these owners want them to produce at, they don't get another opportunity. What did Jon Gruden do as a coach? Fuck the emails, as a coach to warrant another opportunity. Because he talked about Jon Gruden's track record, his body of work. What body of work does he have to warrant another opportunity to warrant the benefit of the doubt?
Nah, I mean, I agree. I don't think Gruden. based on his performance from what we've seen, especially after taking so many years off of coaching in the NFL, I don't see him necessarily getting another NFL head coaching job. I really don't. I think if people were thinking about hiring him for another NFL head coaching job, all they would have to look at is the most recent. He's 22-31 in the years back, the last few years that he's been coaching with the Raiders. And I definitely don't think, D1, D2, college. I don't think he necessarily wants to go to college, to coach. Maybe, I can see someone in high school or college possibly giving him an opportunity in the NFL, though. I think it's very, very, very slim.
He just didn't do enough. Like I said,
not even based off the emails.
Not even emails. As a
that's
coach,
an extra circus, but just as a coach. Oh yeah.
Look at, like I said, his first year with the Raiders, they should have went to the Super Bowl. The tough rule fucked them over. I will admit that. I'll die on the hill with that to this day. They probably would have won the Super Bowl that year.
And that was years ago.
Then he got traded to the Bucks and won with Tony Dungy's team that Tony Dungy put together for about 4 or 5 seasons. All-time great defense. Won against the team he just got traded from, the office they were running was still his. They changed shit up. He knew the plays better than they did. And then after that, Chris Sims, all these other quarterbacks, no playoff wins, no playoff appearances, losing record, goes to ESPN, comes back after a 10-year layoff, and then has another losing record. What about that warrants another job? Nothing.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll wait and see. Jon Gruden is no longer the head coach of the Raiders.
Man, crazy.
Monday night water cooler. We got a busy day tomorrow, man. I got an interview at 3:30 with Scott Howard Cooper about Steve Kerr's new book. We got our show. And we're ready to do this. So follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Now It's This Podcast, YouTube, Now It's This Podcast. We'll see you guys soon. Monday Night Water Cooler.
See y'all tomorrow.